Raft River, we've got all the District 4 analysis you'll need to know. This is the Magic Valley Prepcast with Scott Burton.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, coming to you live on a Friday, November 15th, 2024. My name is Brandon Baney, but let's bring on our Magic Valley resident and expert. It is Scott Burton. Yo, what's going on, Scotty?
Hey, what's going on, Brandon? I had to change locales. I'm used to the garage, but it's so cold in there, and I'm back by the fire, and I'm not wearing pants or socks, and so I have to be warm because we're about ready to head out and do games tonight in the cold. See my logic there?
Yes. And of course, your moniker this week on your name tag, playoffs. We're getting out of the end of it.
Playoffs.
We're getting to the pointy end of the stick, as they say.
We are getting to the pointy end of the stick. And boy, we had some good ones this past week, and a couple of seasons came to an end last night. But we are right into the thick of things. And, you know, some of these brackets are shaping out kind of how we thought they would. And there are some crazy good matchups coming down the stretch.
Yep. So you threw it back, a call back to seasons prior, sitting in front of the fireplace. I decided to call back to the very first intro we ever had for the show. What the legendary Wayne DeZubak recorded all those intros for us. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. I was sitting there listening to it going, wait a minute, that's a little retro.
Yes.
Here we are in year 4.
Keeping it old school, for sure. All right. Well, on today's edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast, we're going to talk about state swimming and state football because those are the only two sports that are still going. Although I will note, girls basketball does tip off today around the state. All of the schedules are in at IdahoSports.com. You might be wondering, hey, where the heck are the previews? Well, this happens every year. As long as we continue to straddle this line between state football and girls basketball, we're always going to be a little bit behind in our season previews. So next week, we'll start putting them up on the website. And by the end of November, everything you need to know about every team in Idaho for girls basketball will be available at your fingertips. So that's the story there.
That's right. That's right. It's a tough one, too, because when these two big sports blend into each other, there's only so much manpower we have.
Yep. So let's talk about state swimming, a sport that just wrapped up last week, Scott, at the old the YMCA in Boise. You know, the YMCA was trending for other reasons last week.
Yes, it was.
But it's the YMCA, of course, is where state swimming is held every year in Boise. The storyline was Bishop Kelly, you know, finally moved up to 6A in soccer and swimming.
Something.
Yeah.
Really, we've been begging you to move up in everything else because that's where you belong, and soccer and swimming is where you go. Okay, all right, that's cool.
Now Bishop Kelly did move up, and they won the 6A girls championship in swimming. So, you know, just proves our point, right?
Yeah, doesn't it? I guess baby steps. All right, good job.
Yeah, but the storyline was at the 5A level. Then it opened up this huge void. Okay. Yeah. Which teams, which individuals are going to surge to the front? Sandpoint ended up sweeping the boys and girls titles. Idaho Falls performed well. But we had some Magic Valley individuals come through and win individual events also. And we wanted to highlight our 2 state champions from the Magic Valley. The first one, Scott, somebody we talked about last year, Isabella Tagnoni from Wood River. She repeats as the 100-yard breaststroke champion from Wood River.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, my swimming knowledge is really don't drown, and that's pretty much where it stops. I have been educated over the past couple of years on kind of how swim meets are working and all of the events and how all those things I'll never be able to do in my lifetime. And watching these kids do what they're doing is pretty incredible, because if you're not familiar with it all, I think most of the exposure that a lot of us get through swimming is watching the Olympics. Other than that, you know, taking the kids to the pool is not swimming, you know, but
right.
There's a strong technical skill to this. And I went and watched some meets this year, and this girl in particular and man, she was good. I mean, just so sound technically and so far ahead of the competition. It's like, man, this gal's gonna make a name for herself, and she's off to a good start.
Yeah, repeats as the champion, Isabella Tagnoni from Wood River. We also had a champion on the boys' side, Scott, in the 200-yard individual medley, Thomas Clark from Minico. Now, this is the 200-yard IM is, I don't know what order it's in, but it's the one where one time down you're doing the breaststroke, and then the next time down you're doing the butterfly, and then you're doing the backstroke. It's like the medley where you do all of the different swimming techniques. And Thomas Clark from Minico ends up taking first place. Way to go.
I mean, talk about an event that you've got to be good at a lot of different things. And, you know, the individual medley, whatever, first thing that pops into my mind, and I'm probably just going to be alone on an island when I say this, but the movie Major League, you know what the scene I'm talking about, where he's in talking to her, and, you know, oh, they have a team. Yeah, we have uniforms and everything. And then, oh, you were an athlete. Well, I was a swimmer. 200 individual medley relay. I mean, that kind of thing. And that's the whole scene that pops into my head whenever I hear that. But, geez, I need to take my medication this morning. But these swimmers and that particular event was something that I really was drawn to, because I mean, you get these specialized swimmers like you would in any other sport, whether it's a butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, whatever. These individual medleys are pretty impressive. I mean, that's an all-around swimmer right there. And there's some, like I said, there's some good ones here in the Magic Valley. And I'm glad they were able to do what they did. And that's awesome.
Yep. So congratulations to both of our individual champions. Again, Isabella Tagnoni from Wood River in the 100-yard breaststroke. She also took second in the 200-yard individual, or in the IM. And then Thomas Clark from Minico wins the 200-yard IM on the boys' side.
One other thing on the swimming side too, academic state champions for the girls, Jerome High School.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we got some smart swimmers out there.
Well, Scott, as we officially close the pool for the season, Frank Case, head softball coach at Glens Ferry High, is in the chat asking, is it softball season yet? Play ball.
Well, you know, funny, softball, the season, when it's supposed to start, when it actually starts, are two different dates. So we'll see how that shakes out this spring. I usually take my softball schedule, make it, and then cross out the first 4 games. And then that's when the season starts. So,
yeah,
Frank, I get you, man. We're going to hopefully have a full season this year.
We are going to hang indoors for a little bit before we get to softball season for sure. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about football. Scott, state semifinals are off and running. We had 2 games last night at the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. 6 Magic Valley teams made it to the semifinals this year, which is incredible. Only trailing East Idaho in terms of number of participants. As you're looking off camera. No. Oh, you're muted. Okay. I just wanted to make sure you were muted. No,
I was good enough to mute my mic. I've been in too many hot spots where I didn't do that.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Do what you got to do.
Oh, no, we're good. We're good. I just needed something off the printer.
Okay. I thought this was payback for last week when I kind of left you floating.
You know what? No, you will get your payback on that. The worst part of that is I didn't see you leave. And so I didn't know if you had just fallen out of your chair and your life alert bracelet wasn't working. I didn't know if you needed attention or where you were, or you just said, you know what, I'm done with him. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the no life alert needed for these 3 teams. Although certainly the heart palpitations were going up and down through the course of these exciting finishes. We'll start with a triple overtime game, then we'll whittle it down to a single overtime game, and then we'll whittle it down to a game that just went 4 quarters, but each were all exciting for different reasons. So let's start with the triple overtime thriller. Minico goes to Bishop Kelly, the defending 5A state champions, and they knock out the Knights 41-35 in triple overtime. Preston Sonner Cranny, the man of the hour, scores the game-winning touchdown in triple OT. Also scores 4 touchdowns in total for the game and rushes for over 200 yards. Scott, he is starting to enter the conversation, I think, for the state player of the year, possibly, with the way he's run the ball this year.
Yeah, he and Ashton Genty are going to battle it out, because that's what Sonner Cranny is doing, and he's just gone over 2,000 yards, and I mean that's incredible. And this is a kid that he gets the rock a lot. I mean he's the focal point of their offense, and a testament to how tough he is he has just been there week after week after week. No injuries. I'm sure he's banged up and bruised, but this kid is one of the toughest kids you'll ever find. And we talk about his wrestling prowess and everything else, but to be this kind of bell cow week after week after week and deliver every week is something special. And this is a game that Minico, they knew they could win. I mean, the score the first time they played them, 20-8, was not really indicative of how close the game was. And I think Minico left that first outing with Bishop Kelly going, we just kind of let one get away. We either were a little bit overwhelmed by the black and gold BK on the jersey, or we just didn't show up or whatever. They just felt like they left something there. And that gave them a little bit of confidence going into this. And, and all the people that I talked to through Minico, they had a swagger about them. I mean, they knew that they were going to go up there and battle Bishop Kelly. Win or lose, it was not going to be a 20-8 score. And as, it turned out 3 overtimes, and overtimes, that's something that they practice. They practice overtimes, and it paid off for them. They had some really big performance. Braxton Trinkle played one heck of a good football game at quarterback, managed it well. Of course, Sonner Cranny, and then, the defense, including Will Nilsson in the strip sack in the third OT. I mean, they had some big time players step up for them, and what a huge win for the community, and especially that program knocking off Goliath like that.
Yeah, and this was a game that I know you like talking about the psychology a little bit. Minico had the lead in the fourth quarter. Bishop Kelly scores the game-tying touchdown as time expires, just to send the game overtime. So Minico goes from thinking, we got this, we just need one more stop, to, oh crap, now we got to go to overtime against the defending champs. And then it's not just overtime, it's a second overtime and then a third overtime. Like, how do you continue to get up off the mat and find a way?
Well, you know what? This is a Minico team that has been through that, and the thing about getting yourself off the mat is you got to put yourself on the mat enough times to get some familiarity. We see a lot of these teams have success, but they've never been there before, and they don't know how to handle the bright lights, the adversity. Their self-confidence gets rattled easily. Minico is a battle-tested program. I mean, they have been to the playoffs, and they have seen disappointment year after year, and they've had to learn how to get themselves off the mat. But the other thing about this group of boys is that, this is a kind of a blue-collar community, right? And we talk a lot about this aspect of football and what makes a program successful. Is Minico falls into this. They fall into the Sugars. They fall into, the Homedells and the Weezers. They fit that mold, because a lot of these kids, the easiest thing that they are going to do that day is go to practice. And if that's the mentality, picking yourself up off the mat gets a little easier.
Yeah, it was a remarkable win for Minico. They're going to try and do it again now in the semifinals against Skyline. That game is going to be Saturday inside the ICCU Dome in Pocatello. So
yeah, boy, you talk about BK being like the pinnacle, and they have been year after year. And but Skyline, boy, that is a good football team, and they've got their hands full. But Minico, I tell you, they've got, as long as you can play some defense, and you've got Sonner Cranny to chew up yards on the ground, that chews up clock, that keeps a game close. And in a game with Skyline is supposed to win, if it's close down the stretch, Minico's going to have all kinds of confidence. So I'm interested to see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, good running, tough defense. Those are always going to keep you in the ball game in the postseason, no doubt about it. All right, Scott, let's go from triple overtime to a singular overtime. This was a rematch again, kind of like Minico Bishop Kelly was a rematch. This was a rematch all the way back from the season opener. Kimberly hosting Fruitland in a quarterfinal last week at the 4A level. In the season opener, Kimberly went to Fruitland, had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, coughed it up, gave it away. Fruitland rallies back to win. Kimberly drives to about the 20-yard line of Fruitland, but runs out of time. So Kimberly took it on the chin early this year, played such a tough, rigorous schedule. We talked about it. They had the win over Sugar Salem. They came into the playoffs as a team that I still think was under-respected a little bit, and this game was incredible. It goes to overtime. Fruitland scores on their possession. They're up 26 to 20, whatever. Fruitland's got 26. I can't do the math in my head, Scott. Then it's Kimberly's turn, and Kimberly scores on their possession, Scott, and they decide to go for the 2-point conversion and the win. Now, this is a do or die, right? Because if you don't get it, then, you're possibly your season is over. But McCrae Bruning hits Mason Jensen for the 2-point conversion. Kimberly wins 27-26 in overtime over Fruitland. Incredible game.
Yeah, I mean, what a game and a huge win for Kimberly, because this was a really good Fruitland team. And you talked about their preseason schedule, and that's the reason that you do those things, is you take your lumps and you may get beat up and you may start questioning yourself at 0-2 like Kimberly was, but we talked about it, that they were one of the best 0-2 teams in the state at this level. And it's because of their schedule. And it's the same usual suspects in the 4A division, with Homedale and Weiser and Sugar and Fruitland and Kimberly, and you throw Buell in just trying to crash the party a little bit, but it's the same group of dudes. And it's some really good football. And for Kimberly, their presence on this stage to stay there is important, because they kind of have the knack of having a great regular season, getting to the playoffs, and then not able to get over that hump, and sometimes getting over the hump is just getting that signature win in the playoffs. Now, regardless of what happens the next time around, that win gets you a little bit further down the road, right? So next year they have something more to build on, not just a first round disappointment or something along those lines, right? But this was a game that was really interesting too, because the coaches, they understood that if you get an overtime, man, anything can happen. You've got an opportunity right now on your field to take care of business. And the way that boiled down, as soon as they scored, head OC Simon Olson and head coach Joe Dilly, they turned to the kids and they were just like, "What do you want to do?" And they were all, "Let's go. We're winning this thing right now." And so it was a no decision at that point. And so the interesting thing about it is when you get to the line of scrimmage and the 2-point conversion, you're obviously checking out the defense. And they saw that Fruitland was in man coverage, right? And so they figured that they were going to come out in man coverage. And if they did, they had a play. And it was going to be from Mason kind of running through traffic. And they knew that if they drug him across the traffic, he's got the ability to just separate just enough to allow his quarterback to get him the football. And that's exactly what happened. It was the play that was dialed up against man coverage, which they expected. And Kimberly got that huge win. And boy, what a game for them.
Yeah. And I'm thinking maybe I got that backwards, where Kimberly must have scored first and then had to hold Fruitland, but I don't know, because again, I was broadcasting while all these games were going on. Scott, last Friday, I had to do a doubleheader inside the Kibbe Dome in Moscow. So I was literally broadcasting before these games kicked off, and all of these games were long over. I was the last game of the night last Friday, Kendrick and Cammy. Yeah. So you've got that time difference too. And so you're battling all of these things. And I had just finished broadcasting at Dietrich and following all of these overtime games that were going on at the same time, bouncing from our broadcast here to our other broadcast here to our broadcast here, and then listening, to you wrap things up in the night. So it was busy. So I don't think anybody can fault you
for too much going on. There's been a time where I've been calling a game, had a game on, and then mistakenly said the player of I'm watching versus the player that I'm actually calling. So things happen.
I will say, Scott, you were on the call for Dietrich's win over Cascade, and I did go back and watch a little bit of that. It was cool to see Angel Alvarado kicking PATs. You don't see that in 8-man football. The one where he almost sent it into the concession stand.
Oh,
that was pretty cool.
Oh, we were having such a good time with that because that kid was kicking him into the next county. And then it kind of got started when the PA guy, small town PA guys, they're pretty much just saying whatever. And it's funny. And the first time he did it, guys, he kicked it in the hayfield. The kid goes and jumps the fence, gets in the hayfield, brings out the football. And then when they switch sides, it's like, Leif and I had such a good time with that, zooming in on the concession stand and almost hitting the people there. Man, even though it was a blowout, we found some good stuff.
There's sidetrack just for a second, in Butte, Montana. Scott, have you ever been to Butte, Montana?
I passed through. Can't say I've been there.
Old mining town, and the town kind of slopes upwards. It's kind of like San Francisco, where the streets are sloped. As you go from one end of town to the other, you climb up towards the big hill where in the mining pit. And so the old football stadium, it's called Naranche Stadium. It's where Butte High School plays. It is on one of those streets. It's kind of sloped a little bit. And then not only that, but it's because you can't have a stadium that's sloped, right? That would be kind of crazy. So they built the stadium this way to kind of counteract. So it was all on a somewhat level surface. But what that means is point after kicks all the time are going into the street where traffic is driving by right by the stadium. And this is like Old Town Butte, where there's no room to build anywhere else. And so all the time, extra point kicks are going out onto the street where the traffic is. So.
Oh yeah. You run into some of those old schools that do that. And, I think Buell's got one like that too. They've got their goalpost right up against the fence or pretty close to it. Beyond that's the street, and better not be driving by during Friday night lights, or you might get tagged with an extra point.
Yeah, seriously. So, we've got a couple of comments here in the chat from Ryan Skaggs, our North Idaho broadcaster. He just called me while we were talking about this Kimberly game. He said, didn't mean to call you while you're live. Don't forget my extra headset. Yeah, Ryan, I'm going to be leaving town in a little bit here, and I will come by your place and drop it off for your game tonight. Do not worry. Scott, looking forward to your call and watching your game ahead of my game tonight. Ryan's going to be broadcasting Coeur d'Alene and Eagle. And Scott, you, of course, are going to be broadcasting Lakeland versus Hillcrest tonight. Which is
excited to that. That's going to be our video broadcast with all of our multi-angle cameras and whatnot. So, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to get ready to hit the road and drive 2.5, 3 hours to Idaho Falls and get ready to call that one. That should be fun. And Ryan, appreciate all the inside information because, he's up there living in Lakeland's backyard. So, got some good stuff.
Speaking of that, he remembers seeing Owen Forsman, who was a kicker at Lakeland, now kicks for Idaho, kicked it into Lake Pend Oreille at Sandpoint a few years ago. And then Costas Bach kicked it down the street into the north end zone. So it's kind of up here in North Idaho, we have some interesting fields, Scott. At Lakeland's field, no joke, on the back side of the field. So you've got the home bleachers on the one side, no bleachers on the opposite side. The field just kind of runs into like a backyard residential area. So you can see people's backyards. And like we were there broadcasting earlier this year, and there was somebody who just had a bonfire going in their backyard while the game was going on. So it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Those are the ones that add a lot of character,
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to see if I can Google that.
Yeah. See what it's called Corbett Field. And it does the one side just kind of eventually turns into houses and fenced backyards and things. So it's kind of interesting. Wow. Yep.
Oh man. Yeah. So these fields are really, really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll see if I can dig that up. But anyway,
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about our final game, Scott. Or actually, we've got a couple of pictures to share from that Fruitland Kimberly game as well, Scott.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you take us through it here. This is, so I think this is the signature touchdown, right? You see Kimberly stretching across for that 2-point conversion, and then this must be the stop on Fruitland's attempt. Or you tell me.
Yeah, no, well, your guess is as good as mine. So, I mean, we thank Kimberly for sending us these photos of a huge win. Great pictures, by the way. I mean, this adds to the entire story. Anytime you got pictures and video and stuff like that we can show, it just kind of brings it a little bit more to life. But yeah, I think this was the stop, and boy, defense for Kimberly rising to the occasion when they needed to, and yeah, it was just a great win for them.
Yep. So let's see here. I'm pulling up the info. This is Riker Larson, senior linebacker, making the tackle, and then offensively here, this is running back Damon Taylor stretching into the end zone. So
yes,
just a couple of Kimberly's outstanding players. Kimberly's season did unfortunately come to a close last night, Scott, against Sugar Salem. In the semifinal round. And that happens sometimes, especially when we get into like basketball season. Sometimes the things we're talking about aren't going to be as timely as other things, but it's the stories. That's the most important part. It's not a right now in this snapshot moment, here's what's going on. It's more about, hey, this is something cool that happened recently. So
yeah, so unfortunately they ran into Sugar last night, and Sugar is legit. I mean, they're the top dog right now. So, but it doesn't take away from what Kimberly was able to do. And like we talked about a moment ago, they got further down that path, of establishing themselves as a perennial favorite every year with the Homedales and the Weezers and the Sugars and whatever. But, hey, good job, Kimberly. Great season.
Yep. And they will be certainly a fun team to watch, next year also. So
for sure.
Okay, let's wrap up with our final game. This was just a regulation game, Scott, but boy, it was a good one. Probably the game of the night in the state of Idaho. It was Hagerman and Valley, two rivals from the same conference competing in the state 2A quarterfinals. Valley had won the regular season matchup and therefore got the right to host as the league champion. Hagerman went to Valley and led, at halftime, led most of the way through the second half, but Valley just kept coming back off the mat, kept chipping away. And then the final 2 to 3 minutes of the contest, Scott, just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, this was a game that if you were watching it, you didn't want it to end because it was just punch and counter punch down the stretch where one team had scored and you think, okay, they've got it. The other team, 2 plays, 69 yards, touchdowns. Like, okay, all right, well, 14 seconds later, the other team's in the end zone, and you're like, it was a track meet, and it was entertaining, and it was 2 really good football teams slugging it out. I mean, really 2 heavyweights in this division and 2 teams that know each other so well. So you knew it was going to be close. And both of these teams have got some incredible athletes on their side. And, and this was a game that when you kind of break it down to opportunities, Hagerman tiptoed out of there with a win. And there were probably 2 opportunities for Valley to put it away. And they didn't do it. And one resulted in a huge turnover. And then the second one, a fumble in the end zone. I mean, they had their opportunities, and Hagerman took advantage of those mistakes, and that's why they went on. But it was a fantastic game.
Yeah, really incredible battle. And so Valley has the lead. They are leading late in the contest. They are running the ball, running the clock out, Scott. They are down near the goal line. A touchdown by Valley pretty much puts this away. They drop back to pass, and that is when the most dangerous thing that can happen happens, and that is a pick 6 by Kai Kendall from the 2-yard line, a 98-yard pick 6, Scott. We've got the footage from Hagerman. They sent us a clip of it. We'll watch it, and then we'll discuss. But this was like with minutes.
A minute
to play.
left. A minute left.
Yeah. I guess we can kind of narrate over the top of this. So here you see it over the middle, picked at the goal line, basically by Kai Kendall. And he is so fast and elusive in the open field. No one's going to catch him.
Yeah. And, and the funny thing is this was a play that they had scouted as well, because, they, at this particular play, they checked into zone coverage because they thought they were going to run the football. And Kai was kind of eyeing the quarterback a little bit. And he saw the fakes, but he also knew that if it were a pass play, he had to drop into flat. He had to drop into flat responsibility. And this was just a guy doing his job, really, reading his keys, getting to a spot where he needed to be. And it just so happened that it was a play that they had recognized, and Kai slid right to where he needed to go, and right place, right time. And that was about a minute left, right? And so that was a point in the game where Valley could have put it away. A touchdown there would have really made it difficult, for Hagerman at that point. But Kai gives him the lead with that. And now with about a minute left, Valley's got the football, and now they can march, they can recover from the pick six, run down and score and end it. But with 3 seconds left on the goal line, another mistake.
Yep. We have pictures as well at the tail end of that play as Kai Kendall is taking it back 98 yards for the pick six. You can see right here, Scott, the separation, and then here's just kind of a closer up of it. Just a remarkable play. And at that point, Scott, you see it on the scoreboard, 56-52, Hagerman with about a minute to go. So Valley is driving. And they drive again, and they drive deep into Hagerman territory. They are down around the goal line, which is just incredible. Again, that Valley could, potentially have a comeback for the ages after giving it away.
Yeah.
And yet at the goal line, Scott, ball gets punched out by Coleman Pierce, middle linebacker. And who recovers it for Hagerman? Kai Kendall.
Yeah. 3 seconds on the clock. Valley ready to punch it in for the win, and they fumble it into the end zone. Kai Kendall recovers, and Hagerman takes a knee, and they move on to the next round. And it was just a heartbreaking loss for Valley. It was on their home field, and Valley had that thing won a couple of different times. And then Hagerman, just the resiliency, snatched victory from the jaws of Valley and took a knee and won the game. And it was just an incredible contest, some great standout performances. Maven Camp, 442 total yards and 7 touchdowns. He's 13 of 18 passing, 267, 4 passing touchdowns, and he had 3 on the ground to go along with 14 tackles. And of course, Kai Kendall, 7 catches, 134 yards, a couple of touchdowns. The interception return, pick 6, 13 tackles, the fumble recovery. I mean, it's pretty much, you could just take week by week and read the same stat line for Hagerman because they're just getting it done with all these dudes. So congratulations to them on a huge, huge win.
Yeah. We've got a clip of Wyatt Mavenkamp early in the game. And you mentioned how he threw the ball exceptionally well, but also ran it incredibly well. Here he is scoring on a rushing touchdown, Scott. And you see the protection break down. And he is gone. Now, he took off from about the 25-yard line. The line of scrimmage was, I think, the 31. So that is a 69-yard touchdown run for Wyatt Mavenkamp.
Yeah, and, flattening a defender along the way, just running right through him. That makes a touchdown even sweeter.
Yep, for sure. And we got one more clip of Kai Kendall here as well. This is him
a great catch.
Yes, on offense as well at some point during the contest. So Mavenkamp feels the heat, good pocket awareness, and then he directs him. You see that, Scott? He points his finger in the air and says, "Kendall, get to the end zone." Yeah.
Now there's the kid can throw, and he's got guys that can run, and man, it's street yard football, video game football, whatever you want to call it. It's so much fun to play that. If I were to do it all over again, I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't take away 2 state championships. But 8-man football would be a blast.
Yep. And it's unusual to see a team in 8-man football sling the ball around like that. We think of 8-man and we think of teams like Cary just line up and pound the ball and maybe throw it 2 or 3 times a game. But Hagerman kind of flipping the script a little bit, and they're a wide open passing attack. So we've got kind of a series of photos to put a capper on it here for this wild 56-52 win over Hagerman. This is the moments immediately after, where you can see Kai Kendall at the bottom of the pile there, Scott with the football, and you see the official signaling, yep, that's a change of possession. And then after Hagerman confirms, you can see that he's still on the ground with the ball, and then the celebration begins. You can see he's getting swallowed up by teammates. This is the view from the sideline as well. You can see 3 seconds on the clock right in the background there. Celebration on, kind of a cool deal.
Oh yeah, I love the photos. They've got their own photographer that is there all the time, and Stacy does a great job. But those are some really cool pictures these kids are going to remember.
Yep. And then I loved this sportsmanship at the end here. You see Wyatt Mavenkamp, and I can't tell who that is from Valley. The number's cut off there, but hugs, and it's a tough loss for Valley, but there's still some respect and sportsmanship being shown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these teams know each other. These guys know each other as kids, and a lot of them are friends off the field. So it's good to see this.
Yep. Post-game pep talk. There's Coach Bill Hicks, the guy in the orange and black jacket. And he is what he's done at Hagerman in a short amount of time, not just with the football program, but with the school. I mean, he was the principal. Now I believe he's the superintendent at Hagerman also, and still coaches the football team also.
I think he cooks. Oh, I think he cooks lunch too. Drives the bus.
Right. He's done a phenomenal job. And then I think this picture kind of sums it all up, just how emotionally draining that 56-52 game must have been.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Boy, that was a game for the ages. Both these teams are going to remember, especially Hagerman. But man, what a football game, really.
Yep. So Hagerman also played last night, Scott, in the ICCU Dome in the semifinals against Butte County, the defending state champs. A team Hagerman had already beaten earlier this year. That's like the curse, right? Kimberly had already beaten Sugar Salem. They fall to the Diggers in the rematch. Hagerman had already beaten Butte County. They fall to Butte County in the rematch. And so, yes, their season concludes for the second year in a row in the semifinals, but the foundation is being laid. We showed it a couple weeks ago, from the varsity all the way down to the Pee Wee Pirates. I mean, the foundation's being laid there in Hagerman.
It is. And I know we talk about this a lot, but it's just, if you don't know where Hagerman was, it's hard to appreciate where they are, because it wasn't too long ago that it was a town that was riddled with just a bunch of, it was negative. Things were going on down there, school board wise and everything else. The whole thing was just really not good. Flash forward a few years later, and that is a place that is a true community, and you can feel it when you go down there. And it's obviously small town, but just the transformation that place has gone through has been incredible. And you couldn't be more proud of the people down there, just because they've turned it around. And man, what a cool story. But what a cool place.
Yep. A really impressive season for Hagerman. And like we mentioned, we still have teams fighting and competing. Minico against Skyline on Saturday inside the ICCU Dome. We still have Declo fighting. They're going to play tonight, Scott, inside the ICCU Dome against Firth. And then Westside and Aberdeen will follow the other semifinal. That Final Four for the 3A is going to be phenomenal. And we still have, I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Cary, of course, Cary Panthers.
Yep.
They will play, they're playing tonight as well. So there's, and Dietrich. So Dietrich, Cary, Declo, and Minico are the 4 teams that are still alive and fighting. So maybe we'll have some championship games to talk about next week.
Yeah, we might, and it you look at the 1A bracket, could it be Carey and Dietrich in a rematch in the state title game? Very well could be. In the 2A bracket, you talk a lot about Butte County, the defending champ, but then you've got that semifinal with Logos and Kendrick. What a game that's going to be. And then all 3 of these teams left, Logos, Kendrick, Butte County. Flip a coin on those, right? Your 3A bracket, Declo and Aberdeen. Perhaps could that be a conference title game? We talk a lot about that conference, and man, what a couple of good teams they are. 4A, is anybody going to stop Sugar? But again, same cast of characters. It's Homedale and Weiser to take on Sugar for the title. Same old folks, same story, right? 5A bracket, we talk about Minico and their job that they've got to handle Skyline, number 1 ranked Skyline, and Skyline is good. Minico's got their hands full, but you know what? This game that we're calling tonight, the Hillcrest Lakeland game, that is going to be a really good game. This Lakeland team is, I think, undersold, but we'll see tonight. And it's supposed to snow, I think, in Idaho Falls. 50% chance of snow in Idaho Falls. So. There's just a lot of good football, a lot of good storylines developing. So an exciting weekend.
Yep, no doubt about it. We got to hit the road. Scott, you're going to Ammon, where Hillcrest High School is, for that Lakeland Hillcrest semifinal. I've got to go to Lewiston. That's a long journey too. I got that Logos Kendrick showdown.
Oh, so. You got a good one there.
Yeah,
you got a really good one there. I'm interested to see what happens there. I'll be tuning in. I'll have my game going, have yours on the side.
Yep. Sounds good. I'll gladly be your side piece anytime, Scott.
Oh, hey, that a kid. Nice. So.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. Enjoy the competition this weekend, whether it's basketball or football. Travel safely, and we'll see you back here next time for another edition of the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.